Hi, you're listening to Boggy Talk, Faith Conversations in the Mud, a resource of Church on Bayshore.
Well, thanks for joining us today on Boggy Talk. We hope all of our listeners are doing fabulous.
Yeah.
How are you guys?
Not too shabby.
Wait. Who is that strange voice joining us on Boggy Talk?
Every week, it's just something new.
Hey, yeah. Who are you?
I'm Jacob.
What are you doing here?
I'm actually the new
What did you
student
do with
guy here.
James?
I took James and I killed him and ate his liver.
Oh, is that from a movie?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
is
it's
that
Madagascar?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That was
nice.
not going to be my guess, but
yeah. Well, it's when you have kids, that's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
This is true. Yeah, we're in the middle of this series, bringing different staff members on, talking about stuff, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah,
Well, today we have Jacob Ball with us, and Jacob is our new student minister. So, Jacob, you started in
January the 8th.
January the 8th.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, and you just came off. It's spring break week, but you came off a refresh weekend with our students. Your first big event.
Yes.
How was that?
Honestly, it was a lot of fun. We
Yeah.
had a great time. I do think I'm going to have to change the name because while it may have been refreshing for students, leaders, it is not refreshing for leaders.
I guess it depends on how you define refresh.
Yes,
Right.
yes. If you want,
Sleep, no, but refreshing in the intentional relationships.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
Justin wants to volunteer next year, I think is
I'm
what
the
he's
spin
saying.
guy, so I like to spin everywhere.
Yeah.
That's
It's
true.
really but about this.
That's true.
Yeah, I can see how that is. No, overall it was an incredible time. We talked through the armor of God and how students are facing different battles every day, and how to look at the armor of God and how to make sure that they're using it daily so that they're prepared when they get attacked in the world.
Did you give everybody physical armor and let them battle each other?
Next year I think if we do armor of God, it'll be like jousting and all that good stuff.
There you
with
go.
pool noodles and all that good stuff.
Pool noodles, that sounds like a
Yeah.
good idea.
So it's March in Florida. It's spring break week. So how are your sinuses doing? Right? This is allergy season.
Yeah, about that. Like living in Tennessee, you have to acclimate to new pollens and new climate and all that stuff, and then coming back to Florida, you get the salt air, especially where we're at here in Niceville.
Sometimes it's boggy, fishy air.
Yes, it's boggy, fishy air, and all of that is just culminating. So it's glorious.
Yeah.
Sinuses are wonderful.
Yeah, it'll eventually go away, and then
You'll
the
get
fall
used to it
will
after a while.
happen.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, so we wanted to talk, obviously, about student ministry and you now that you're here, that we're super excited about being here, and especially I know Justin and James when they were,
Last
filling
year was
in.
a great year, but I was ready for the student minister to get here and to do a good job, not just to get here, but
Yes,
to
yeah,
do a good
true.
job.
Yeah, student
Absolutely.
ministry is not a warm body job. You need
Yeah,
somebody who's doing
no.
what
Yeah.
they're supposed
No,
to.
for sure. Yeah.
So you are a student minister. How did you know originally, that you wanted to be doing this as a vocation?
I didn't.
Do you know now?
I do.
Okay, that's good.
I do.
For clarity. For clarity.
Yeah. The hesitation there kind of threw things off.
Clarity. I'm totally regretting and questioning every life choice I've ever made in my 3 months here in
Exactly.
Niceville.
Right.
What was I thinking? In reality, I went through high school and college, early college, thinking I knew what I wanted to do with my life. Really quickly realizing I had no clue what I was doing. You change majors 6 times in 5 years.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing. I wish I would have had some wisdom that I have now. Back then, I probably wouldn't have made as many mistakes. But back in 2012 is when all this kind of got started. I was working, I was serving in a church in Stark, Florida, and Katie and I was wrestling with why can't I find what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
My wife, Katie, and I kept praying about it, trying to figure out what was going on. I talked with our pastor. I had been serving as a helper volunteer in the student ministry and had grown to love doing that and loved being around the students, loved engaging and working with them. But then I got the opportunity to teach on a couple of occasions. And preparing and then praying through and then actually teaching the students about God's Word and what he has for their lives, like in that moment, I was like, this is different. Like this hits different.
That's good. And I also appreciate that you just said preparing and teaching students. Not once I stood up in front of all those people, I realized exactly. That's good. Good point of information.
Yeah. I had a pastor growing up that said, if it's important enough to share, then it's important enough to prepare. Ooh. And I had. It was Tommy Jordan. Yeah, growing up, he was our music minister.
That's
growing
a word.
It is. He encouraged me in that. But going back to when I was at First Baptist in Stark, I was just a member there. I was a deacon in the church, and really started like looking through what are you doing with me, God? I'd actually enrolled in an LPN nursing program to try to do that because I could do the work.
Yeah.
And I understood how things worked, and I understood the human body and all those things that are needed for nurses, but it still was like, this is still not it. Mm-hmm. And we prayed with our pastor, and he encouraged me. He used a phrasing very similar to this. I won't get the exact phrasing right, but he said, if I could be doing anything other than this, and he was talking about being a pastor, and find the joy and satisfaction and fulfillment in my life that I find right now, I would already be doing it. Mm-hmm. His point is that when God creates you to do something, gives you a specific calling on your life and a set of skills to do something, he equips you to do it, and then you step in that role and you do it, there's a different level of fulfillment, there's a different level of realizing this is the purpose for which you were created.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as I began to pursue that, along the way, God kept affirming that, yes, this is in fact, what I've called you to do. And so that's just how I ended up in it. Why am I still in it? Is a question that a lot of people ask.
Yeah.
I hit 40 next month, so the big 40, and most of the time as a student pastor, by the time you get to this age, people are asking, like, when are you become a real pastor?
When are you going to graduate?
When are you going to become a real pastor? Grow up and get out of student ministry. Quite frankly, I hope I never grow up, because this generation absolutely needs people who love them, who want to understand them, and who want to continue to pour into them. I want to see the students that we have, particularly here, but just in general, want to see students develop a deeper faith. We're in a world that's attacking, like on a regular basis, belief in God and how it's absurd and how it doesn't match or correspond with reality. And I want students to be firm in their foundation, and I want them to love Jesus, and I want them to love his word. And so you can do that with adults, but they've already developed their life patterns, and they've already developed the things that are necessary for them in their daily life, their routines and things of that nature. And so if you can start them earlier, then you can kind of stop some of those pitfalls that they're going to run into later in life, kind of help them navigate those. And the teenage years and the youth years, young adult years, those are some of the most
volatile.
Yes, tumultuous.
Volatile,
lots of words.
Yeah.
Don't pause too long.
I know,
Skip that in with a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of
crazy dynamic.
And they're dealing with things that that were not on
true,
my radar
yeah.
at this
So
age.
true. Yeah. I saw a meme the other day, and it was funny, but also I think it is indicative of what this generation feels. And it said, when I was 14, I stole my parents' car and snuck out and got ice cream. My 14-year-old has anxiety about ordering their own food in the drive-thru. It's like that, and and it's funny, but it also is reality that is the world our kids are growing up in, is a super anxious, with all the influences, constant attention, constant access to people, social media, and needing people to navigate, wise people to navigate.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
People who see the big picture. I'll say, going back to the age thing, I think most people, when they think youth pastor, think young, and I think probably even when our team and church set out for this, there was never a we're looking for this age person, but maybe an unspoken an assumption it would probably be somebody in their 20s, early 30s, but that was never a target for this team, because we're hey, we're looking for the right person for this season, and really recognizing where we are as a student ministry wanting someone who could come in and shepherd the students and really provide the leadership that they need, and for parents and to equip. One of our priorities is that, or one of our values is that the priority of every generation is the next generation, and so who could really help carry that forward for the church. And so, those questions were asked. When you guys left the room, when you met with a group of students, when you guys were in here, that was the first thing we asked them, was like, "Do you guys think he's too old?" And they're like, "No." No, because I think that speaks well of our students,
right?
Too.
Yeah,
our students who were like, we don't really care about having someone. We care about having someone who cares about us, and so that is, I'll say, to the affirmation of you guys, the team, you and Katie, that you care.
Yes,
that's step one. You care.
Definitely
you
do.
love Jesus and you care.
Yeah,
and not that previously. That's not indictment. That's just saying that's what we were looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful.
Absolutely. Well, how have the first couple months been?
Awesome.
Your boss is in the room, so
my boss is sitting in the room.
Just kidding.
We can talk later.
It's been wonderful.
I think you can be fully honest with me. Everything's great except Justin. Listen, I got work to do. Yes, work to do, and work that'd be better, but
What's been the most surprising thing that you did not expect?
I'm not one that goes after this is my word for the year or something like that. But there is, and this is not an indictment on any other place I've ever been. There is an intentionality here that is refreshing, that is encouraging. I'm watching the things that we do, from down to the kids ministry, and how Lucas is encouraging parents to disciple their own children, and giving them things and resources that they can. Like the intentionality there of putting that stuff together, the intentionality of what we do on the calendar, and why are we doing this event, making those hard questions like, this event is great, it's a lot of work. Are we doing this because it's helping us make disciples? And if it's not, then making the hard choice, like, hey, we need to cut this out because our resources could be spent more effectively and efficiently in another area. That intentionality aspect, I think, has been surprising maybe, but it's one of those things I wasn't expecting it. And to see just how every ministry falls into that intentionality, it's been really cool to watch.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
neat.
think that would be the number one thing right now.
Yeah.
So on that note, you have a favorite student yet? Just kidding.
Which one of your 4 do you want me to name right now?
Do you have a least favorite student? Just kidding.
Which one of James's do you want me to name now?
Yeah. No, we're just kidding.
He's already learning very fast.
That's right.
Yeah.
You see the potential in everyone, right?
Yeah, and I think that not only do I, but all the leaders and the volunteers in that student area, to tag on to the intentionality, we have an incredible group of volunteers in the student ministry that are just giving of themselves to the students. Yeah. And it's not a cookie cutter mix of individuals. You've got individuals from all stages of life, all walks of life, some military background, because we're in Niceville military community, but some have nothing to do with the military, and they're just, they live in Niceville. They love it here. It's just, it's neat watching them all interact with each other, but also to engage with the students.
Yeah.
They love students.
Yeah. And that's a big difference for you working here. Like before, where you were, didn't have a team, didn't have a lot of volunteers, just kind of you and Katie running stuff.
Yeah, it was a much smaller environment, and the teams that, when you have a smaller church, one of the challenges for a smaller church community is the people who could be stepping into those roles in your ministry are already stepping into roles elsewhere in the ministry and serving in other places. And so your volunteer pool is much, much smaller. With that, it's not, and that's not to say, too, that those don't want to serve in those areas,
right? But
you only have so much bandwidth to serve. And
we run into that here, too.
We're running into that here, too. I know that there's the stereotypical, 80-20 rule, where 80% of the things happening in the church are done by 20% of the people. In a church of 1,000, that still leaves 200 people to help. In a church of 200, it's 40. Yeah. And so still wanting to engage the students, still wanting to encourage them. There's just not as many people who can help. The ones we had there they loved students. It's just they didn't have the ability, the ability to have that many people be able to be back there with
That
them.
was good math right there. Good job on your accurate.
I'm a nerd.
percentages.
I can't help it.
I wasn't even going to check it. I have to use a calculator for
I can't
everything.
help it. It's how the Lord wired me.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Well, now that you've been here and you kind of seen the layout of the land, how everything's working, what are a couple of your priorities for?
Couple
Bayshore
priorities
students?
To really iron out and solidify a group identity. We find our identity in Christ. But when you say we are Bayshore students, like there's going to be some descriptive words that you're going to use when in your mind when you say what does it mean to be a Bayshore student, and trying to iron out what's currently going on here, like what's their ethos, whatever that word is, what's the mentality of the students right now, and then trying to see if that mentality matches up with what Scripture says that we're supposed to be, and if it does, let's keep running forward with that. But if it doesn't, let's rally back around the Scriptures and figure out what are we here for.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be number one priority, is trying to get that. Get a feel for what that looks like. As far as the students, I want to really intentionally get them to have a personal walk with Christ. I want to take it out of the idea that I go to church and that's when I meet Jesus. I want them to go, I go to church and that's the culmination of my whole week that I've spent with Jesus. And so I want to try to change that mentality that it's not a once a week thing, it's an everyday thing. Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of sixth graders this year. So that's kind of,
I love them.
the first time that you get to be with them, and then you have them for those 6 years. So when they first come in, what's your hope, desire to see that when they've had this whole time in student ministry
by the
with
time
you and
they
your leaders?
graduate, this is like you're this sixth graders. I mean, you came middle school year, but this is kind of like they're the first class that'll be with you, 6th grade through 12th grade.
These are
also,
my
can
minions.
we just pause and recognize how great of a difference there is between 6th grade and 12th grade?
My goodness.
Oh my
Not
gosh,
just
yes.
physical, but I mean, and then they're
true.
all lumped in. I mean, we do most things separate, high school and middle school. There's common events, but when
God bless those middle school youth leaders.
yeah,
That's all.
seriously, there's so much energy and crazy, and so but really, you've got 6th graders who, and even amongst 6th grade, you've got a big spectrum of, that's where the transition from concrete thinking to abstract thinking happens, really begins. And the boys aren't generally there; the girls are farther along in that, so they're not even. Some of the things you're talking about faith that are more abstract are very hard to grasp. So you've got to make things very concrete for middle schoolers. And then you've got juniors and seniors who are wrestling in a culture of craziness, but then they're beginning to really move to that almost philosophical way of thinking, to I know all this stuff, my faith, my own, what is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
They're thinking these questions, these philosophical questions. So that's where we're going with this question. What do you want by the time they leave student ministry?
Probably the best way that I can kind of phrase it is I want from the time that they're in 6th grade to the time that they're graduating seniors, for them to go from a student who may or may not have started a relationship with Christ to, by the time they're a senior, they are personally growing, but they're also taking what they've learned from the entire tenure that they've had in student ministry and using that wisdom and that knowledge to pour back into the next generation, because it's the priority of the next generation to reach the next generation. But I want it to begin and end with discipleship. I want them, which is what our crew is doing right now, which I think is an incredible program where our juniors and seniors are actually physically in the room with these middle schoolers, the 6th and 7th and 8th graders, and they're leading the discussion groups, and they're leading them in worship, and they're engaging them with activities, and they're developing those relationships so that by the time those 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are able to be in crew, they've been poured into. And so creating that culture of we're just leading the next generation behind us. We're looking back to pour into. I want to see that continue to happen, and maybe even grow to a larger scale where they're doing this outside of a typical Wednesday night, where they're having a Bible study on a Sunday afternoon at somebody's house. They're going to the beach together. They're hanging out together, and really trying to pour into that next generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you're doing
that's
all that
awesome.
in the context of, so, adults kind of naturally, like the way we structure life groups kind of get to pick their groups kind of based off of who they connect with. And our students, they don't.
That's
it's
true.
What grade you in, and guys and girls. And so you're doing this in kind of a forced community context, which is good. I mean, it's healthy because we need to learn how to be around people who we wouldn't
All
just
kinds of
necessarily
people.
be
Yes.
best friends, because it helps us relate to each other. But I think one of the things you said is the intentionality, like the high schoolers being physically present. That is huge because it gives a physical representation. And granted, our high schoolers who serve on crew are not like spiritually elite. I mean, some of them are on fire and they're doing great, but they're not perfect. But it does give our younger students, our middle schoolers, like a physical, like when I'm their age, that's what I'll get. That is, we're setting the expectation even at middle school that once, this is not a consumer thing. Like our essential to our faith is discipleship.
Exactly.
And it's pouring out what we've been entrusted with. Now, everyone's at a different place with that, but at least for our middle schoolers growing up in that culture, they're seeing that, hey, by the time I'm in high school, I should be serving. I should be helping. I should then be pouring out. And I think that is a huge
I like
piece.
that. It's not the consumer mentality.
Well, I'm
that
even
it's
seeing
pouring
this
back.
in our oldest daughter is in 8th grade right now. She's at Ruckle Middle, and she's already asking, hey, when are crew signups for next year?
Yeah.
Can I be part of it? Her friend group wants to get engaged and wants to get involved. Now she loves kids, and so that makes it a little bit easier for her because she can step into the kids ministry as
Right,
a 9th and 10th grader. That's where they're helping at. So she'll get 2 years of that.
Yeah.
But that's her desire is to step into that role.
And that's so neat when you don't have to force it, when it's
Yes,
just already
yes.
cultivated, and that's
Yes.
just, like you said, something that they're excited about. That's really important to
It has nothing to do with
develop
me
that.
being a great parent. It's the Lord working in her life.
Absolutely.
I just get to reap the benefits of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
thank you for being here.
It's an honor and a
As
pleasure.
a parent of a youth, I appreciate all that you and Katie do and your family, and we're very happy to have you
Yeah,
here.
and we have, she's not here because she's at work. Katie's
Yeah.
working at Ruckle. She's a guidance counselor.
Yep.
So, it's really cool to see how God placed her there, kind of opened the doors really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
For her to be there in a
Oh,
place of big influence, but that's also her heart. I mean, she's very much with you in this, and we appreciate her intentionality with students, and also just. She's not a supporter of you. She's your biggest fan, but she is like, and what I mean is like she's not there just to support you. She's actively engaged. Like she's fully dialed in. She's not just there to be like, I'm just here to give Jacob a. No, she's like playing with the kids. She's high fiving them. She's
You can
meeting
tell
with
she
them.
loves it too.
Oh, yeah.
She's not
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, I
Definitely,
have
yeah.
to do this.
Yeah,
It's okay. You can say I'm married up. I got it.
Yes,
I got it. I
right.
understand.
Yeah. I
She's
mean, she
wonderful.
was I'll say she was the selling point in the interview. I'm just kidding.
mean-
I'm just kidding.
It wasn't for her. I don't know.
It wasn't for her. I don't know why that Jacob got
Listen,
that.
I'm married to one of those as well.
Yeah.
So I say that very well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we have some light, fun stuff
Awesome.
coming up. So
That was fun. I enjoyed that.
it definitely.
I love talking about
In the
Jesus.
spirit of student ministry.
Yes. And now you're on the spot with these because we did not prepare you for
We're
this.
gonna play
But-
some really gross games that involve getting wet and shaving cream.
Bring on the
and-
milk challenge.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is it really a good student ministry meeting if somebody didn't vomit, right?
I
Yeah.
mean, no, it's not. If you don't have
No,
to call
it's
the
not.
facilities and be like, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I apologize.
They're your favorite person. You're their favorite person. Yeah. Okay. Well, so we are going to play Would You Rather,
Ooh,
but this is youth group style. So
Youth group version.
Youth group version.
Youth group
Okay.
version, would you rather?
I'm game. Let's do this.
Would you rather have to preach every sermon using only TikTok slang or only speak in King James English for a
I'm
month?
all over the King James
Okay. All
English.
right.
I mean, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, so
You
the
would
higher
actually,
English
you would
we
be
could
doing
go.
it in an accent too. Just
I
knowing
would
Yeah,
be.
that's true.
Yeah.
You would.
This
But
is
what
the
would be
Lord's
most
word.
effective in engaging students?
It depends on which accent I use. Like if I
Still
bust out
going King James, man.
like if I
He's
bust out
committed.
like King Theoden from Lord of the Rings, like mean,
That's funny.
We can pull it out.
Oh,
But they're going to want the TikTok.
Yeah, for sure.
The bad thing is I'm old enough that I can't use TikTok slang without getting the eye roll.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
I've hit that age, and it's like,
Listen.
They start laughing at you. I
Yeah.
know.
they're not
For
laughing
sure.
with me at that point.
True.
But I found, like, with my own kids, that if they're driving me crazy saying certain slangs, if I say it on purpose with, like, in the wrong context, they get really annoyed and they stop saying it because they're like,
Oh, it's not cool anymore
Yeah,
once
like,
we start saying it. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
All right, would you rather have unlimited pizza for the youth group or a youth group that always cleans up after themselves?
Always cleans up after themselves.
Yeah, good
Hands
answer.
down.
Good answer. Would you rather have to chaperone an all-night lock-in every weekend or, that sounds terrible,
Oh, my word.
or playing VBS all by yourself?
VBS.
Okay.
all by yourself.
All
No
by yourself.
help.
Yes.
And it still be expected to be really good.
Yes. VBS, hands down, no questions.
Lock-ins are pretty extreme.
I think
Yeah.
that every weekend. Now, if
Every
it was
weekend.
once a month, that would make that
True.
a little more even, I think, of a question.
I still think I would take VBS at one point. Now, you
Good
made
to
it
know.
like once a quarter, then we'll start talking.
Yeah, okay.
It's a lot.
You probably do actually have to do them about
Yeah, right.
with all the youth events we have. All right, would you rather lead worship with only a kazoo or be able to sing 90s CCM song?
So
Only be
90s
able to
CCM
sing.
songs.
Sorry.
Oh.
And not the good ones. I'm going to add them to that.
I would love the kazoo, please.
Okay, kazoo.
Only 90s. Mm. There were some great ones in the 90s.
Yeah.
There were
but
also some not great ones
There
in
are
the
also
90s.
some not great ones.
Would you rather have your sermon notes get lost every Sunday or always forget students' names when calling on them?
Sermon notes.
Okay.
Why?
Wow.
Because
Because he has the
I think
Bible
you've chosen the right
memorized.
answer,
Yeah.
but I'm just making sure. Yeah.
so for me, sermon notes, if I'm actually just reading from the text of scripture and preaching just a passage, a lot of times, specifically in the Psalms, the passage will teach itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing I can't add to it. But if you're intentional with knowing students' names, that goes so far with them feeling like you actually value and care
Yeah,
about them.
that's true. All right, a few more. Would you rather always have to wear a giant inflatable sumo suit during youth events or only be allowed to preach using memes?
Give me the sumo suit.
Sumo suit.
That was a no-brainer.
At least
He's like,
the
that actually
student-
sounds exciting.
Yeah, you would. I mean, you'd be so sweaty. Could you imagine, like, after like
true.
6
Could you imagine
months
how
of
small I would be?
Could you imagine like how bad that suit would smell after
Yeah,
like 3
oh,
months?
gross.
Especially like, I mean, the air conditioning like works in the student area now, but we had a little period where it didn't, and we just had to like suffer through.
Well, and then you get all those students
Yeah.
together.
Middle schoolers.
Yeah.
At
Sixth
least
graders.
the students would know, like, oh, it's sermon time. He's coming out in the
It's
suit.
not me, it's Jacob.
It's right. It's like they would know, like
Flies flying around it.
they would know it's sermon time. Here comes the
Oh my
suit.
goodness, that's funny.
Okay. Masks.
Would you rather have to play Chubby Bunny in every sermon illustration or always have to use puppets to preach?
Oh,
The
Puppet.
puppets
oh
one.
my gosh. Do I get to pick the puppet?
I don't
I said
Sure,
puppets.
puppets.
So
Yeah.
I think this is plural. You got 2 hands involved at
So
least.
technically, Elmo and Yoda are both puppets.
True.
So if I could use those to teach, then I think I'd be okay.
Every week.
Together, Elmo and Yoda. What
do
a
it.
combination.
Can't do a Yoda voice.
Okay.
Listen, I mean, show me a Baptist church that's been around for a while that didn't have a puppet ministry in the
know.
80s and 90s.
Oh, man.
And we had one in we always like one of the ways our youth group served. It was like
Oh,
you got
okay.
to be on the drama team or you
Fifth
got to be on the
Sundays.
puppet team, and we did it on mission trips. Like we set it
Yeah.
up. We had like the real thing, and we
The
did a
the like
whole thing.
built-in backdrop,
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
yeah, they
Yes,
got pretty serious.
absolutely.
With
We had a
those.
guy in our church, and he took that on himself, and he ran with it, and he took a trip to Charleston, South Carolina, and did that growing up. Like my
Yes.
brother was part of the trip, and for some people, it was super successful. It was really encouraging to draw them to the faith.
I mean, it can be used for sure. Not,
for other people.
And then eventually it gave way to dowel rod ministries.
Oh gosh, yes.
And where you even know how like long 3
Oh,
foot
with the puppets?
with the puppets.
That's the only thing I ever
like
knew.
dowel rods, like the 3 foot long stick, and then people would you do the cross with them. You paint them black light, use black light, white glue, all kinds of stuff. That happened.
Okay.
The most awkward thing I've ever sat through in my life was an audition for a talent show where one person tried to do a dowel rod. It was like Napoleon
himself?
Dynamite level awkward. It was so bad.
Oh no! Oh my goodness!
I was like, "What is this? Does this count? Why are we doing this?"
Do you remember the skits to the Lifehouse music and all that stuff?
Oh
Those
yeah,
are
we were in some of those.
Yes.
Some of those things I hope it doesn't.
Yes, that's all I need. We're showing our age.
There's the one.
Showing our age. All right.
Oh my gosh. Okay, last one. Would you rather always get pied in the face for fundraisers or be forced to shave your head for camp?
Ooh.
Only for camp?
Every camp.
For every camp?
Every year. Every summer.
I mean, it's a clean shave.
It's pretty.
I would
You
not
get your haircut, it's pretty close to a shave.
I mean, it is. I personally would not have a problem with the scalping and just being done with it.
Scalping.
Just right down the top. But my bride would have a serious problem with it.
Yeah.
She
Don't wanna do
says that I can't shave my head until it turns loose. I like to say that I've got a receding hairline, but mine's now in full retreat.
Yeah.
And so it's only a matter of time.
Nice.
Oh man.
Well, it was pie what? Every week? What was it?
Pied in the face for fundraisers or be forced to shave your head for camp.
See, shaving the head would be super simple. Super simple. It's going to grow back. And if it doesn't, I just keep shaving it.
Yeah.
Pie in the face.
Good to know if
that
we have any
cream gets in your
fundraisers coming up.
nose.
We don't have any fundraisers coming up. So.
Capital campaign.
There you go.
never know.
Yeah, for the capital. We can have a metric, and every whatever.
There you go.
We have a
How low
thermometer,
can
and
you
every
go?
1,000. Yeah, we just have
Tap
to pie you in
into
the
that.
face.
You guys all might have to get involved in that. You never know.
My first year here, we did a spring celebration, and we had a Pastor Duncan booth. That was fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could definitely
Yeah.
make some money doing that. I know several youth that would empty
That's true.
their bank
This is
accounts,
true.
their parents,
This is true.
to dunk Pastor Jacob. Absolutely.
Wow, that'd be fun.
Well, we're looking forward to all of the great things that the Lord
Yeah.
has in store and how He's going to use you and your family here. And thanks for being here.
Thank you for
It's
having
great
me.
to get to know
It's a lot
you
of
more.
fun.
Yeah, and if you've got questions about student ministry, I am happy to say that you can email Jacob at churchonfaithshore.org.
There you go.
Yeah, we
Passing
are
on the
thankful you're here. We're
baton.
thankful for what God is already doing in and through your family, like Kelly said, and we look forward to what's to come.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We will see you next time.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to Boggy Talk. We are so glad you joined in the conversation. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss a beat.